Michigan football's offensive line was rather sus in 2024, leading to the offense to have some. Well, frankly, the entire offense just had issues. They just had issues. Wasn't really all the offensive line. Anyway, it sounds like in 2025 they're going to be a lot better than people think they're going to be. Like a lot better. Like Big Ten championship better. We'll talk about that. Plus, today is Feedback Friday, so we'll get into your comments and so much more on this episode of Lockdown Wolverines. Wait. No, that's not my intro. What was my intro again?
Touchdown, Wolverine!
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, as I said, it sounds like the concerns with Michigan's offensive line are, well, overblown, to say the least. Michigan football offensive line coach Grant Newsom shares 9 key insights from fall camp. I don't know why he couldn't have shared 10, make it an even 10. I guess he's just super lazy or something. But we're going to talk about that right now, Michigan's offensive line coming into 2025. But let's start with a little bit of context. And we won't talk too much about this because I do want to get into your comments because we had some doozies. You guys are getting hurtful. It's very rude. But anyway, the concerns with Michigan's offensive line coming into 2025 mostly having to do with the left tackle position and the fact that, in 2024, they didn't really gel all that much. There was a lot of turnover from the 23 national championship. A lot of guys hadn't had some playing time. They had some players coming back and all that. There was still some experience there, but things were getting shuffled around. In my humble opinion, I think that basically the entire offense was mismanaged, shall we say. Unfortunately, I think Kirk Campbell might be way more to blame than we really want him to be. Or at least me, because, frankly, the guy helped Michigan win a national championship in 23. Like, how bad of a football mind can he be? But apparently he just didn't know what to do with Michigan's offense in 24. There was a lot going against them, for sure, but, it didn't work out. That's okay. Hopefully he goes and he learns some stuff at another program, and then maybe in the future he can come back. That'd be pretty cool. What an underdog story. I'm kind of a sap, aren't I? Anyway, so Grant Newsom has apparently been with Michigan football for 11 seasons now. He's only 28 years old, which just makes me feel like I've completely failed in terms of my life. But he's been with the program as a coach/player since 2015. This will be his 11th season overall, and he spoke to the press after practice the other day, letting them know that apparently the great Desmond Howard had spoken to the team and shared, he says, quote, a powerful message about mindset and how your perception shapes your play on the field and in life. And if Desmond Howard doesn't make it as a sports analyst on, College Game Day, right? No. Big Noon Kickoff? Whatever. I think he's on Fox, right? I don't care. It doesn't matter. But if it doesn't work out for him, he could definitely be a motivational speaker. And if YouTube doesn't work out for me, maybe I could just crawl back under my rock and be sad. He encouraged players to see challenges as opportunities rather than obstacles. I feel like that can go for all of us. You wake up every day and you're like, I have to go to work today. That kind of sucks. No, you don't have to go to work today. You get to go to work today. And then you get to come home at 6 o'clock. You get to be exhausted for the rest of the evening. And then you get to go to bed at 9 o'clock and do it all over again the next day for 50 years. And then you die. You get to die. You don't have to die. You get to. It's stupid. Newsom is in his. Man, the last 2 episodes of the show have been way more political than I ever meant them to be. But no one can guess my politics. I don't know. Newsom is in his 4th season as the full-time assistant coach with the men in Mays, and his second as the offensive line coach. The 28-year-old has been we know he's been with Michigan since 2015. You've said that 3 times already. Competition heats up at left tackle and right guard. Newsom described the offensive line as a true meritocracy where every job is up for grabs until the first game. That's what we like, meritocracy. Again, can't guess my politics. At left tackle, you have Evan Link. He has made significant strides since last season and is having a strong camp. That's really good to hear. He definitely struggled throughout most of last season, but he really turned things up against Ohio. Well, kind of against Ohio State. The offense honestly didn't really have a good game against Ohio State. It was just the defense played inspired football, and also Ryan Day kind of wet his pants. Also Chip Kelly. Anyway, Evan Link kind of struggled throughout most of last season, but he had a pretty solid game against Alabama, if I remember correctly. So he really ended the season on a high note. And now coming into this season, knowing that he has made significant strides at left tackle, that's pretty huge, because that was kind of the question. Was Bryce Underwood's blind side going to be exposed? And would that mean that he would have to exit the pocket quite a bit? And being the freshman and having not a ton of experience, but then also the quarterback room not being as, maybe a lot of depth as we would like there to be. Although Mikey Keene seems to be coming on, but we'll put that aside for a second. Without the depth or a certainty of depth in that particular room, you didn't want that blind side of the offensive line to be weak. You wanted something strong there on the off chance that Bryce Underwood, he's a freshman. If he gets rushed from that side, doesn't see him coming and gets hurt, that's kind of disastrous at that point. So it's really good to hear that Evan Link is having a good camp. Andrew Babaloa, at this point, it sounds like Andrew Babaloa might be a starter. And it seems like things are really leaning that way. He's, from what I've heard, having a very good camp. Blake Fraser, I believe he is the one they're referring to as coming back from injury. They are competing for playing time. I've heard really good things about Blake Fraser as well. Newsome says, quote, "At right guard, we have 4 guys mixing in." These are a lot of weird names except for Brady Norton, so apologies in advance. Nate Afobe, Lawrence Hattar, I think, Jake Garnera, I think, and Brady Norton. All 4 are playing well enough that we can win. It's a healthy competition. That's what I like to hear. We're not just better, we're deeper than last year, and that is the biggest thing. That is the biggest thing about this, is that we really need an offensive line that has depth. I mean, we can have a good offensive line, but to sustain drives and frankly, to establish Michigan's identity as a run first, and I understand that Chip Lindsey's there. We've talked about how the offense might come back to more of a, not come back to, but go towards more of a 50-50 pass run type of situation. But Michigan is still smash football. Sharon Moore still has that identity that carried over from the Harbaugh era, and I think that's the right thing to do. I think that for Michigan, especially for Sharon Moore to have longevity at the position, they still have to rely on good smash mouth in the trenches football. Frankly, I mean, you've had 2 different styles between Michigan and Ohio State for the past 4 years. Ohio State being the high flyers, with the Maseratis out on the wide outs and whatnot, but Michigan was the one with the trucks in the offensive line. I love all these allegories. It's just great. And Michigan's won those games. A lot of people will say it's because of cheating. Those people are sad and lonely, probably. Coaching growth and player development. Newsome acknowledged a learning curve in coaching, but credited the players for embracing the challenge to lead the team through the offensive line. He says, quote, "We weren't good enough last year." Well, you got that right. "The expectation here is that the offensive line leads the team." Yes. The guys have embraced that challenge and made tremendous progress. That's really good to hear. Physicality has been a key focus this year, especially in the run game. We have to be able to run consistently. That pride and physicality needs to show up every game. That's really the big thing. They need to be able to run the football. They need to take the pressure off of the true freshman quarterback's shoulders. And at this point, I think we're all just kind of operating with the mindset that Bryce Underwood is going to be the starter. I think I would be shocked if he wasn't. But from this point on, he's basically talking about the culture of toughness, all about the mindset and seeing things less as a challenge, or more as a challenge and an opportunity rather than, something that could potentially throw them off their game. I mean, the fact that they have no back-to-back home games this year, if they're kind of embracing this challenge of, if they were to win the national championship, not saying they will, I'm just saying this is the mindset they have, which is exactly what you want. They would be the first team, college football team, or no Michigan team, rather, has done that before. They would be the first Michigan team ever to go undefeated, win a natty without any back-to-back home games. And that would really be a big thing. That would be a huge indication, obviously, of where this program is going under Sharon Moore. Although if Sharon Moore wins a national championship in his second year, how long is he staying? Anyway, lots of really good information from Grant Newsom, at least reassuring information, I'll say. A lot of stuff here that makes me feel a lot better about where the offensive line is. Obviously, you want them to have the right mindset. That's not really what I'm concerned about in terms of is their mindset. I'm more concerned about how they're gelling with each other. But there is no indication right now that they're not gelling the way that they need to be. So pretty excited about the offensive line coming into 2025. Now, Feedback Friday. Let's get into, I guess, the quote-unquote mailbag. I'll just call it the mailbag. That sounds fine. Kerry Carson R3N responded to my Savion Hyder video from yesterday. Michigan set to score huge 2026 recruiting win. Kerry says, "Go Big Orange." Is that what they call Tennessee? Isn't that what they call Syracuse? Well, Syracuse is literally the orange. Do they say "Go Big Orange" or "Get Juiced"? I don't know. This guy, "Get Juiced," that has a totally different connotation. This guy, Savion Hyder, is coming to Tennessee. Why would he go to a school that has never beaten Tennessee? Have we ever played Tennessee? I think we have, but also who cares? I mean, if Tennessee were a Big Ten team and we played more than once every century, then maybe I'd understand, but we play once every century probably, so who cares? Plus, bowl bans are coming to Michigan. Everyone knows that. Bowl bans? I didn't realize the Bulls had their own bands. Bowl bans. What is that? Does everybody like in the band have a bowl cut or something? Or maybe should you download Grammarly? Because terrible grammar is for you. Bowl bans are coming to Michigan. Everyone knows that. Does everyone know that? Is that really what we think is going to happen? Jeff Andrus 4064 says, "Go Blue. Go Blue, Jeff." Focal Point Landscaping. I think it's just awesome that we're being followed by a landscaping company. That's just really cool. With a solid subscriber base themselves. Nice job. So I've heard that ESPN is the one who set the date. It was based on their schedule and times available. May have nothing to do with Bryce. It might not, and in fact, it kind of seems like maybe it doesn't, but I haven't heard any evidence. I looked this up for this specific tweet or comment. I looked up if there's any evidence to suggest that ESPN has anything to do with the scheduling, and the answer is no. At least there is no hard evidence. It's definitely a thing that recruits work with, some of the recruiting services to try and get their social media graphics ready at a specific time. So, dates are kind of set far in advance, working with places like 247 or On3, etc. I mean, ESPN does some recruiting stuff too, obviously. So it's not like it wouldn't be ESPN. It's just, we don't know for sure who decided on the timing. Although that being said, Bryce Underwood commented on Savion Hyder's announcement about his announcement, saying, "LOL, that's my birthday." So it doesn't sound like he actually worked with Savion Hyder on scheduling the announcement. But that being said, it also could be a smokescreen. Could be Bryce Underwood's involved in some sort of underground conspiracy with Savion Hyder, throwing subliminal messaging like, "Hey, announce that the recruitment is on my birthday." That'll get people going. And honestly, it has gotten people going. So there you go. Chai State Mother? Shi State Mother? I don't know. Yeah, I forgot. I forgot this one happened because I did respond to it. Wow, your jokes are so bad. Yeah, I mean, I'm really glad you took the time out of your life to comment that. We are in the middle of firing our writing team. Me. But thank you for taking time out of your life to comment something like that. It truly is amazing what people will say behind the comfort of their computer monitor. It's really funny. Would you say something like that to my face? Probably not. Well, maybe you would. You might just be that much of a jerk. But, I don't disagree necessarily either. I don't know why we've got this many subscribers. I mean, I just thought we were putting out low effort content for funsies, and all of a sudden we're at almost 2,000 subscribers. So it's kind of your fault for watching, really. Joe B 317 says, "This is old news, but it's new to me, Joe. It's new to me. The reason being, I proudly live under a rock for 16 hours a day, and the other 8 I'm working. So get off my back about my rock life." Whatever. DI114N2 says, "I haven't seen Ohio State Bucknuts that low in the recruiting rankings in a long time. Also, isn't the next transfer portal window not open till December? Why wouldn't CJ Hester just let the season play out and then just announce you're transferring in December? So yeah, I mean, I don't know, where does Ohio State usually land? Like top 5 in the recruiting rankings, I think, for the most part, usually. I think that's where they usually land. So yeah, I guess 9 is kind of low, but again, like, you don't, top 15 and you're fine, in my humble opinion. I mean, Michigan won with a class that averaged somewhere around 9 to 12, I think. So whatever. I mean, top 15 and you're golden, in my humble opinion. As long as you get the right players who are good enough and you develop them, that's what matters. And frankly, even if you don't, the transfer portal exists, just as you said. But at that point, to your point of CJ Hester leaving now, he needs to get that red shirt, you know, so he can't play any during the season. I think actually to get a red shirt, you can't play any more than like 4 games or something like that. I don't know necessarily how that works out with the fact that like he's healthy. It wouldn't necessarily be that he'd be a redshirt freshman if that has any sort of anything to do with it. He does have 2 seasons left, so he's trying to preserve that one season that he would have lost had he played this particular season. So that's probably why. I'll give your message a heart. There you go. Message to us. I'll take 2 or 3 more here. Message to us. Okay. Says, good show. Heart hider to Michigan. Bryce's birthday. Sydney Sweeney is a white nationalist Nazi. Then therefore hates blacks. Sorry, Bryce. What? Sydney Sweeney is a... Am I reading this right? Sydney Sweeney is a white nationalist Nazi and therefore hates blacks. I don't know how we got to... I don't know how we got there, but oddly enough, not the first time Nazism has been mentioned on this show, so I'm gonna laugh and move on from that one. I don't know where that came from, but okay. Roundabout 999. Jack Sawyer is my favorite Buckeye after Dave Boston. Laughing emoji. Yeah, I think Travion Henderson is actually my favorite Buckeye player. He just seems like a cool dude. Jack Sawyer, you know, I was willing to let the whole pity party cry temper tantrum thing that he had after the Michigan game thing go. Because he had a really good playoffs, and he made that one really good play, and he grew up wanting to play for Ohio State, I think. And, you know, that's just kind of a cool story. So, you know, good for him, I guess. But then he went on that podcast and said, you know, in 2022, we ran this one play against Michigan that we had never run before, and all of a sudden Michigan knew how to stop it. And yet they still gave up 6 yards. It's just a very stupid thing. So, yeah, I think Jack Sawyer, you know, he's fine, but that was a dumb thing to say. Gigadope says, please put out as many videos as possible. I love the humor plus sports knowledge combined. One of the best channels on YouTube. LOL, these people in the comments are hilarious. Yeah, these people in the comments are mean sometimes. But dude, Gigadope, thank you very much. That's really nice. Appreciate you. Gaming Tremor, the Green Party would like a word. They probably would, wouldn't they? Let's see. I'll take one more here. Blah, 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 blah. These are all really long. Oh, wait. This one looks like it's a little triggered. Okay. Opitz30 says, this is about my Is Michigan the most corrupt football program ever video. Ooh, 19 minutes in. Most of you are probably not watching anymore. Come on, guys. You're all grown men with common sense here. I don't know that I've ever been accused of having common sense. Penn State and Ohio State have been getting away with paying players for decades. Ohio State's had some issues, I've heard. How about Southern schools? Yeah, definitely. They get a pass all of a sudden? Who's still at the top of NIL paying? I think it's the Big Ten now, honestly. Yep, that money has always been there. Oh, you know what? The Southern states, they got that oil money. They do. Enough with all your bull $ hit and lying to the naive you... Wow. Where... The cleanest blue bloods are Michigan and Notre Dame. I hate to give the Irish credit, but they are a lot cleaner of a program than any SEC school. And they... Okay, I just wanted to make sure that he wasn't using blow inappropriately. And they blow the Lions and Buckyups out of the water. I mean, Notre Dame's Catholic, so they kind of have to be clean or else they get in trouble, right? The nuns probably wouldn't like it too much if they were inappropriately paying players, unless, of course, the nuns had money on a game. I've heard that gambling among nuns is fairly rampant. The Vatican put out a statement about it. I'm Protestant, so I don't care. They're a lot cleaner than any SEC school. Yeah, I have no hard evidence to back up anything that you said here, but trying to exercise what little common sense I have, the fact that the SEC was doing nothing but winning BCS championships and most of the playoffs. And then as soon as NIL becomes legal, you've got Michigan, Ohio State, and actually Texas, former Big 12 team, made the 4-team playoff in 23 after NIL is legalized or like a couple years into it. And then so they're not even full on SEC, but then you've got Washington who had made it twice. And then, that in 2023 being the second time. So, all of a sudden these SEC schools are starting to not make the playoffs even as much as they did. Now, of course, it's expanded to 12, so the regular season doesn't matter anymore. It's still fun to watch, but, you can have a team lose 2 regular season games, one of which being to an unranked 6-5 team, and still make the playoffs. So it is what it is. But I hear what you're saying, Opitz. Let's watch language. But I hear what you're saying. All right, that's going to do it for Feedback Friday. If you enjoyed this video for some reason, please give it a like. We would really appreciate that. We really appreciate all 1,957 of you. Thank you so much for hanging out. And for the 70-some-odd% of you that aren't subscribed yet, you are a bunch of selfish jerks. Hit the subscribe button right now, and you will no longer be a selfish jerk. And we will catch you in the next video.